If you're running a retail business, don't let disorganized order fulfillment cause chaos. Use ShipStation instead. From running a business out of your garage to multiple warehouses, ShipStation is ideal for every phase of your growth. Save time with one login for all your stores and by automating tasks. Plus, you'll get the best shipping rates from global carriers. Calm the chaos with the shipping software that delivers. Start a free trial at shipstation.com/audio. That's shipstation.com/audio.
Joining me now is Patrick Wood. He has a brand new article out over at technocracy.news. Here it is. AI's prime directive, stunning realization from ChatGPT itself. Patrick, welcome back.
No.
Some people are saying this is one of the best articles you have ever written.
Well, I guess maybe the beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Well, tell me what you said. I recently interviewed the professional version of ChatGPT. What was your intent in doing that?
Well, my intent was to kind of put a crosshair on the functional uses for AI. I figured, well, AI should be able to tell me what are you made for, right? And so I was having this discussion. I discovered a lot of things I knew were true. And then I asked it the question because I sensed that there was something was kind of skewed in a certain direction. So I asked this question, and then the fun came on at that point. But this is my question. Would you say that the prime directive for AI is live flow data analysis? Okay, that's my question. You have to answer or ask the right question to get the right answer, I guess. But ChatGPT at that point spilled its guts
and said this,
and says this. It says, at its most powerful and strategic, AI exists not to archive knowledge, but to act upon the world in real time. This aligns it more with control systems than mere analytics. In technocratic logic, knowledge is only valuable as its immediate utility in managing systems, whether ecological, social, economic, or mechanical.
End quote. So at the end of the day, AI is admitting the purpose is a control system.
Yes.
That's a knowledge-based system. Now, this is what separates our system that we've built, that I am told, folks,
yes,
I should be able to access for the first time myself right after Memorial Day weekend. I mean, I can't wait. I've been waiting for 6 months and paying the bills to build something that I haven't even had a chance to access. But I've been told by our guy who's been diligently working, after Memorial Day, I will be able to go in there and start asking our AI system questions. And our AI, Patrick, is for the purpose of accessing data, knowledge, 35 years of knowledge built up by interviewing guys like you, Dr. John Whitcomb, Jimmy DeYoung, right? To access our catalog, our library, knowledge.
Yes.
Yet, and then, of course, folks, maybe hopefully soon by the middle of June, you guys will be able to start to access it and have knowledge of all of these great interviews and Bible teachers and prophecy teachers and history and get it an acquisition of truth quickly, accurate, not mixed with propaganda. That's what separates us, okay? Some people have sent emails saying, I don't know if you should be going down that road. Well, that's like saying you should have never bought a TV, okay? We should have never printed the printing press or developed a printing press. All of these are just technologies. The question is, how are you using them? What's the goal? Ours is the acquisition of knowledge, right? So we can have wisdom. Theirs, they said, Chat is admitting, our goal isn't so you can get knowledge and data and information. It's so we can control anything from the environment to the economy to social sciences to the environment. It's a control system, which at the end of the day, Isn't that what we've been saying? It's going to eventually evolve into the beast system. You're not going to be able to buy or sell without it, a mark, and it's going to be tied to social credit scores, and you're going to be controlled. This is the difference between using it for good, what we're doing, or for ill, right?
Yes. It's obviously, well, it's apparent now about 20% or maybe even 10% of the utility of AI is to service people like you and I who want to understand what's going on. They want to get references to stuff, maybe articles on the internet, whatever. That's a minor part of what AI is all about. All of the hype, however, you see in the news, it's all related to this type of thing. Well, you can get knowledge. You can do research with it. You can, if you're a chemist, you can get chemical formulas figured out. If you're a mathematician, it can solve problems for you. Okay, fine. But all the hype is about this type of the 10%, right? The 90%, they're not talking about it at all. In the media, nobody talks about the flow of data, for instance, coming off of the agencies in our government at this point that have been invaded by Doge. All of that static data, plus now the constant feed of data off those systems has been totally hijacked into the cloud using and setting up AI to analyze the whole thing. Nobody's talking about that. They should be, because that's the other 90% we should be scared of at this point.
So you think Doge has snatched up all of our data off the government databases and has it now?
Well, look at the list of agencies that I listed in the bottom of this article, in order on and how they approached the whole thing. First, they went after DHS, then HHS, then Social Security Administration was number 4 that they went after. Then Department of Education, USAID, that's old history at this point. But look down a little bit further. The IRS, whoa, we're talking big data here. They didn't just, here's my point. They didn't just get the historical data. But they hooked up the data flow to continuously flow into AI from here on.
Wait a minute. You're telling me Doge has hooked their databases permanently to these government agencies permanently?
At this point, yes.
Why is this not a crime?
Well, they did it with legal authority, quote unquote, in the first place. If they could get all the data out first, why would you not expect that they would continue with a continuous flow of data?
But why are no members of Congress saying, look, we don't care if you go and look for fraud or abuse, but you don't have the right, Doge, to suck up all the taxpayer information and data or health information on Americans.
Look, I would agree with you. They're clueless at this point. What's happening? This was never about saving money. And in fact, nobody has produced an audit trail. How much money have they saved? Where specifically did they save the money? Nobody knows at this point. But what we do know, all the data went missing in a sense, and it's been bolted in to AI and vice versa at this point. That it's going to be very hard to get these people out of the flow, because they're the ones now who will control the flow of information being fed into AI.
I'm afraid when we look back, like we do at the George W. Bush administration, we think civil liberties stripped after 9/11 due to the Patriot Act, right? And things like that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm afraid we're going to look back in this time and say people came in and began to suck up data and infringe on our privacy that is now used as a control system and social credit scores. Is that what's going to happen?
Yes, exactly. I've said for a long time.
And by the way, how many people are saying this besides you?
You, I know, you and me. That's about it. I've said for a long time that data is the lifeblood of technocracy. It always has been. They love data. That's their crack cocaine. Okay, and they'll do anything to get data into their algorithms. That's the reason that Elon Musk bought Twitter in the first place. It wasn't about the social media at all. It was to get a live feed into his impending, or being invented at that time, his AI platform, Grok. And now he has, 700 million people feeding data on a daily basis, continuous basis, into his AI. His AI is processing the whole thing. The whole feed is being processed.
Let me break that down for a minute. Elon doesn't care that you snap a picture of what you had for lunch and put it out. That's not what he's after.
No.
But he's got 700 million people now acting basically, correct me if I'm wrong, acting as programmers and coding in history and information, 700 million people doing it. So when you go to X and you see a clip of whatever's going on right now in Israel, anywhere in the world, what President Trump is saying, what members of Congress are saying, what medical doctor is saying, what lawyer is saying, what economist is saying, what pastor is saying, what anyone in the world is saying, and all these people who are grabbing these clips for him, putting it up there, they are all building his database of information. So it's like having, let's say out of the 700 million, let's say half of them are putting up garbage that means nothing. Well, his his systems can take that all out. It'll know. Yes. But that still leaves you with, 350 million people cutting clips, putting up. Now, look, we're in the news business. I got guys in the control room cutting clips, putting stuff out. We're not even a drop in the bucket. He's got 350 million. If half of the 700 million, 350 million are putting up good content, he's got 350 million people in his control room around the world, if you will, putting in valuable data and information that can be used. When you think about it, it's brilliant.
But consider the nature of the information. Before he bought Twitter in the first place, Twitter was a cesspool of left radical junk, right? When he declared himself to be on the side of free speech, all of a sudden the conservatives joined the crowd, right? And then all of a sudden now he has a profile on the conservative movement because of that. He didn't have that before. Nobody had it that before, because Facebook didn't have it before, and Instagram didn't have it before.
Why? Because not enough conservatives belong to those?
Exactly. So now all the conservatives have gone on to X, and they're populating his data stream so that he can get a handle on the conservative mindset, to see what they're posting, what's trending, and more importantly, to figure out ways using AI on how to manipulate the conservative mind.
Okay, so what we're really talking about here then is not so much collecting data for historical reasons to project trends historically or economically. Now you're down to the really what's in my documentary, Brainwashed America Part 1 and Part 2. Now we're into the Tavistock Institute and social sciences, and how to read the trend of a population and then push them to the outcome you want. Now we're down to the social sciences of the Tavistock Institute.
Yep. And now they're in a position to nudge you personally based on your activity as well, as compared to the norm of your segment. So this is now being refocused on the individual level, but data is the lifeblood of technocracy in the first place. And it will continue to be that way.
Who said this right here? Who said that? Not thought, it's flow. Not reflection, it's regulation. Not memory, it's momentum. Who said that?
This is exactly what ChatGPT spit out at me. Exactly. That was verbatim. Yes. And above, I had to ask it, well, what do you mean by that? You know, that it's not thought, it's flow, it's not reflection, it's regulation. What do you mean by that? It's kind of cryptic to me.
Here is what he said. AI.
It explained it to me, and very succinctly, I might add.
Its core utility lies in managing, shaping, and regulating contentious flows of data, information flows, energy flows, traffic flows, behavior flows. The goal isn't deep contemplation, it's frictionless optimization in motion. In other words, how to script the narrative to get the least friction in moving people in a desired direction.
That's the way I would read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back. It's
The
not
next one,
reflection,
yeah,
it's
but-
regulation. AI is designed to regulate systems, adjusting variables to maintain order, efficiency, or sustainability. Okay. So in other words, if we're pushing too hard, too fast, it'll know, and it'll be able to adjust accordingly. Correct?
That's right. Yeah. So that's not reflection. In other words, they don't pay AI to reflect on what it's doing. There's no opportunity to reflect, only to move forward with the data.
It's not memory, it's momentum. Power is exercised in the now, driving real-time responses, in contrast to human memory, which fuels narrative, identity, reflection. AI uses data as fuel for perpetual movement. It nudges.
Yes. And the final conclusion that it said about this triad, this is from ChatGPT itself. Its dominant social role, AI does not serve humanistic ends, that is, thought, reflection, memory. It serves technocratic ends, flow, regulation, and momentum. Now, it put the word technocratic in there. That's not my word. Well, it is my word in one sense.
But they put it in there.
Mr.
You didn't feed it
Technocracy.
that. You didn't feed it that word.
No. Even though, well, let me just back up. I informed the session about my work. Like, I uploaded my book, Technocracy Rising, I think The Hard Road, whatever. But this discussion, I never mentioned anything about this in my books in the first place, about data. This obviously came from some other literature common to the technocrat movement, or data scientists, or somebody that deals with AI. This came from somewhere, out of something else, not out of my writing for sure.
So this is, at the end of the day, about digital slavery.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
The word technocracy, people kind of like, oh, too big of a word. But if we're trying to get to our not for this audience, not too big a word. Very bright, intelligent audience. But if they're trying to reach their family and their friends, maybe what they ought to do is talk about digital slavery, mark of the beast type slavery, and introduce technocracy that way to them, right?
Maybe that's the way to turn the key. Possibly, yeah. At this point, I'll tell you what, the concept is over the top. It's so big that most people just can't get their head around the whole thing at once. You just can't. It's too much. It's like eating a watermelon all at once in one bite. You can't do it.
Is Elon and Sam Altman, are they in a, they don't really like each other, right?
Well, you could say that.
Are they both
I'm
in a
not-
race? Are they competing to grab this data? I mean, how is Sam Altman going to get this data?
He already has his hooks into the government with a product he's calling OpenAI Gov.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think this is the mechanism that they used for Doge.
So Doge has got the lead on him.
I think so at this point.
Does Elon turn around and sell this data then to them?
Not yet.
Will they? Can
Not
they?
yet.
Will they?
Well, I don't think they would do that, but maybe. I mean, maybe it's possible.
Do those
to
two
sell it. I
companies
don't know.
merge at some point? Does Elon buy him?
There's another thought as well. The data flow is going to exist somewhere in space and time. Whoever has their hand on it can use it to train and to control.
Logan was telling me the other day, you asked Grok a question, Logan, and it cited out of my documentary, Brainwashed America, right? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. He asked Grok to respond on a tweet as if it were me. And Grok spit out how to respond based on data from my documentary. It said as I said in my documentary. And Logan's like, look, Grok just tried to tweet as you, citing your stuff, and it knows what you said in your documentary. How does it know that? That documentary is behind a paywall, isn't it, Logan? I'm guessing that these guys have, their computers are, I'm just guessing, their computers,
Yeah.
They don't care about my paywall. They're getting it somehow, right?
Most everything has been not hidden, at least from search engines, because stuff exists outside of your paywall. If you know where to get it, it's out there. Almost everything is out there. Probably all your books are scanned somewhere as well. Most of the time, stuff like that is just buried in the internet. Nobody cares. Nobody would ever look for anything. But if a sophisticated crawler can get to that data, they can suck it all in, and that's exactly what's happened.
So the
I
more
think.
likely they're getting behind my paywall somehow.
Well, your paywall didn't exist forever.
No, but I don't think we've ever released Brainwashed America Part 1 and 2 online, did we, Logan? Forever? I mean, we maybe aired it in our stream.
Exactly. People can rip stuff off the internet.
Or they could take the DVD. I guess they could take the DVD and rip the DVD and put it somewhere.
Exactly. And there's screen recorders now. When you play something on your screen, you can rip it into a digital file and then upload it. This happens all the time.
I've been told by people inside the intelligence arena, there are nondescript buildings all over Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., that are contractors that are recording every program, every radio show, every podcast, anything out there. It's sucking up and capturing. Somebody in the intelligence arena, and I'm saying this guy was way up there. He had a corner office. Everything you're saying is being sucked up in real time by government contractors for the government.
Yes, exactly.
So
Yeah.
if we streamed it in our stream, that contractor likely grabbed it. If these companies are into the government stream, then they have everything we've ever done.
Exactly. Yeah. So, at this point, nothing is private. If it's ever been on the internet in the first place, it's probably out there for anybody just to look at it regardless.
Isn't it something where it's going?
It really is. But nevertheless, I just want to stress again, all of the hype, like stuff that Eric Schmidt is talking about. Oh, AI is going to be out of human control and that all kind of stuff. Give me a break. This is not about the static data. It's not about the reasoning ability of AI. It's about the data flows that it will use as a control mechanism to shove it down our throat.
So you're not worried about AI starting World War III and lifting off missiles?
Nope. Not unless somehow they figure out that the data flow demands it somehow. I can't figure that, but go figure.
So why is Eric Schmidt making all those claims? Like it's going to get out of the control and we're going to be in big trouble.
I'll tell you what, all I'm saying, when everybody talks about one side of the equation and that part of the AI, there's maybe 10% of the AI space is the stuff we're talking about, like what you're doing with AI, what I'm doing with AI for the sake of research. That's just a small sliver of what AI does. The 90% left over, nobody's talking about that. That's all I'm saying, including Eric Schmidt.
But we are.
We're talking about it.
And there it is.
It scares the daylights out of me. But this is not what we bargained for when we signed up in the first place to the MAGA movement.
Yeah, that's the second time today I've heard that. That's the second time today I've heard that. Dr. Andy Wood said, we didn't sign up to have jihadis that spent 20 years in prison on lay boards, lay committees tied to the White House. We didn't vote for that.
Yep.
And now today you're saying the MAGA people didn't sign up to have all their data harvested by Doge to be put into a system that will be used by ChatGPT's own admission for control.
Yep. Yep.
It's almost, this just kind of went through my head. You know all the things they've tried to say, the left has tried to say about Trump? Violating civil liberties, tyrant, dictator, etc. It's almost like they are doing predictive prophecy. And then they're going to come around later and say, we told you. Look at all that Trump laid to happen. It seems to me they've set a trap for him. I could be wrong, but it seems like they've almost set a trap for him. Here's what we're going to say about him. Then these guys go in, they do these things that leads to this kind of control and really end of civil liberties, end of freedom. And we'll be able to blame it all on Donald Trump so that everything we said about him, the left, ends up being true as they walk him into this trap with all these people they've surrounded him with. And that just came to me. What do you think?
It could be. It really could be. However, in the end of it, I think the political left and the right, they're going to be both wiped out.
Well, don't you think they're merging? The right and the left are merging?
Maybe, but the whole thing is going to blow up at some point because the technocrats want to remove our political system altogether. This is what the dark enlightenment is all about in the first place. Which
goes back to what you and I talked about. Kiss the right and left goodbye, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green Party, Libertarian, because we won't have any of these people.
Exactly.
AI will be making the laws, reading the laws, making judgments, writing the legislation, because it'll be so much quicker and faster and have more knowledge than all of humanity combined. Why do we need humans to do it?
That's right. That's right. It's amazing to me just how big the ego was of people in the 30s who wrote technocracy up in the first place. They really thought at that point that they could control society algorithmically, and you didn't need political discourse. period. They wanted to remove all politicians from the system.
But
they
that's
said, well,
that's the Tavistock. That's Aldous Huxley.
yes, it was exactly. And we see people like Fauci standing up saying, I'm Mr. Science. You can't take a shot at me because I'm just saying what science says, right? This is the ego of the decade or the millennia, who believes that people don't have the right or the need to discuss things before policy is set in motion. And they thought, well, hey, there's not anything to discuss. The science says, and we have the science, and we're telling you what it says. You can't go around it. You can't go through it. You can't overcome it. The science is like gravity. You can't deny it. So there's nothing to discuss. Go home, politicians. That's what they said in 1933, just as FDR was being installed as president.
So how much
we
time?
see the same thing here. And this is exactly what Curtis Yarvin has been saying with this dark enlightenment nonsense, that we need to have a monarch in our country, and we need to get rid of basically all the politicians to not let them make decisions for society. And the whole society needs to be run under the leadership of a CEO who installs technocrats to run everything in the country. There will be no discussion. In other words, there will be no discourse.
Which to me leads
to
no
debate.
Which to me is what leads to the whole situation of Daniel 2, Daniel 7, Revelation 17, Revelation, I think it's 13, somewhere in there. The 10 horns are 10 kings who've not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority along with the beast, the Antichrist. You end up with 10 world regions led by 10 prime ministers or presidents of these unions, right? Mm-hmm. The European Union, the North American Union, the South American Union. We've talked about this before. Club of Rome has this for years. Yeah. UN has had this division of 10 for years. The European Union Commission has had this 10 region for years. So these people are just spokespersons, figureheads. Everything else is being run by AI.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, you were like, wait a minute, how do these people have so much power? What has happened to the U.S. Congress? It doesn't exist.
That's right. The Congress is getting weaker and weaker by the day at this point. They really are.
And frankly, aren't they making the average American, where at the end of the day, they're sick of them anyway? Because it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Nothing gets done. At the end of the day, it's like becomes noise, right? And very few people really tune in anymore. It's a very small percentage of the country tuning in. You know that, right?
It's really sad.
Very
this
small.
Is exactly what they thought in 1932.
So what I'm saying is, if only a small percentage are tuning in,
yes,
it won't take long before they convince the majority. You don't need these people anyway. Go to AI and just have a figurehead as the president of the 10 unions of the world.
Yeah, that's very plausible.
Which makes me wonder, and again, I'm just thinking out loud, these people talking about Donald Trump 2028, and they've already printed hats. I'm just thinking out loud. Don't shoot the messenger. What if this is really just throwing it out there for what it's worth. What if this is all just priming, with President Trump talking about America, Canada, Mexico, and Greenland as a unit, North American Union. What if this is just priming for President Trump to go from being the president of the United States to, when he's done with his 4 years, becomes president of the North American Union?
That's very possible, very feasible.
You really?
Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it. Why not him? In any case, what the technocrats are proposing at this point, according to Yarvin, for instance, we need a monarch, not a president, not an elected president. We need a monarch to control everything from the top down. England has a monarch.
You do know that that is in the book, John Stormer's book, None Dare Call It Treason. You heard me read from that book, right?
Oh, yes.
Where they
Yes,
talk
indeed.
about, those were the George H. Bush Republicans. Phyllis Schlafly and John Stormer were warning about this so many years ago, that the George H. Bush crowd, Mr. Globalist, Mr. New World Order, were talking about coming up with a reason to get rid of our representative government and go to a parliamentary system.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's been brewing for a long time.
Yeah. And it'll be Republicans and Democrats are going to end up agreeing on this.
Yep. And in the end of it, they'll all be thrown under the bus.
What do you think your time frame is on this? You've had to guess.
I'll tell you what, Klaus Schwab said 2030 is going to be the year. And we're 4 years away.
What would be the tipping point for it? Massive financial collapse, World War III, both? What would it be?
Who knows? I honestly, any trigger at this point would be enough to set.
Well,
it
it was
off, I'm sure.
The guy that wrote the book, The Power to Lead, in 1984, James McGregor Burns. The founding fathers have been too shrewd for us. Frail tinkering bridges won't get the job done. Only a stupendous national political and economic crisis will get the people to go where we want them to go. That's James McGregor Burns, a globalist, 1984, the book, The Power to Lead. So he said it. Mm-hmm. 9/11 got the people to go where they would never go. Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So is it going to be a massive terrorist attack? Is it going to be an economic collapse? Is it going to be World War III with an economic collapse? Because I'm reading that Europe, they're dead set on going to World War III. And the reason why is their government is collapsing economically. Europe is collapsing economically. And therefore they need a war, Europe. And this is why they're talking about drafting people and all they're doing. So if they're dead set on going to war and starting World War III because they're economic collapsing, then that fits my scenario. You got an economic collapse with World War III together. Now let that spread because the contagion would spread, right?
It would.
And then people say,
whole world.
who got us in this mess? All these stupid politicians, right?
Yep.
And you go to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
AI by 2030 with just a European Union, North American Union, and a figurehead for each system.
Yep, that's right. This is exactly the complaint of the technocracy movement in 1932 after World War I, especially what they blamed that on the politicians. Then came the great crash and the depression. They blamed that on the politicians as well. There was there's unbelievable anger in our country in 1932. It's no wonder they came up with technocracy. In a way, that was their solution to the whole thing. We're just going to get rid of all those politicians in the first place, and we'll make a system that somehow will, be survivable. But here we are today, and we're kind of in the same boat as we were in 1932, where over 500,000 Americans joined the technocracy movement. They paid money to go to the meetings. It was a huge deal for several years. You can see that sentiment rising here at this point. And if there's enough people that will say, you know what, we have AI now, they can do a better job. It can protect us better than any politician can because there's no graft in it. They can't take bribes, that sort of thing.
They don't do self-serving deals and insider trading and all that. Have you ever known in a time in the world where there's been talk in the last couple years of a civil war in Israel? There's now talk of a civil war in Europe.
Yes.
There's now talk of civil war in America.
Yes.
Have you ever known a time in world history where these nations all at the same time are talking within their polling civil war? I don't.
No,
Do you?
I haven't.
At
No,
the same time?
never.
Which shows you
Never
a
have.
global movement where people are sick of the system we have now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which tells me everything is ripe for what you're talking about.
It is. And I have to say, this has been intentional, I believe, by members, for instance, of the Trilateral Commission and the United Nations to divide and conquer people with alternative systems of governance. For instance, the Sustainable Development crowd who wants to change governments around the world and the economic system of the world. This has had a huge impact on the thinking of the world, and it's been at odds against all the other systems that existed before sustainable development was invented in 1992. So you can see from that point forward, the nations of the world began to disintegrate. I think that was intentional. That was exactly what Brzezinski wrote about in 1971 in his book, Between Two Ages. That was exactly what he said, that nation states are basically going to go away, and they're going to be ruled at some point by corporations and other actors, not the governments of the world.
Wow. Technocracy.news, technocracy.news. Here's the headline tonight. AI's prime directive, stunning realization from ChatGPT itself, telling him it's not about knowledge, it's about control. Technocracy.news. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Logan and Patrick host Technocracy News at 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern, Tuesday, Thursday. Huh? No, what? Airs at, he's forgetting too. Huh? 6 Central? 6 Central. 6 Central, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays, you think the two guys running the network would know. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 Central, 7 Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday. All right, there you go. Thank you, Patrick.
My pleasure.
Check it out, folks, technocracy.news. All right, before we go to Dr. Lana, we talk about PSA levels and this other level, that a word I've never heard before till this week. What does it mean? How important is your PS level versus this other level? What about having mammograms? What about prostate exams? What about colonoscopies? We're going to talk about all that tonight with Dr. Lana. It's going to be very interesting, I'm sure. Invasion of the Prostate Snatchers. That's the name of the book. She trained with that medical doctor. It's going to be very interesting. Now, before we get to Dr. Lana, I want to show you something, folks. WorldviewTalk.com. WorldviewTalk.com. Go there to WorldviewTalk.com. Look at what we got. I asked them to please put these two things up there today, and they did. Starlink with adjustable pole mount. Get the Starlink Generation 3 with essential mounting hardware and a 500 gigabyte high-speed internet plan. Only $165 a month. You're going to save $625.99. Okay? You can click the button, find out how it works. Okay?
Starlink is not reserved just for those people who are out in remote areas. Actually, Starlink can have competitive pricing against some of the existing internet providers. And not only that, but the beauty of this type of system is that if the power were to go out, the grid were to go down, all you need to do is get an external battery, plug this thing in, and now you have internet communication, whether it's checking the internet or streaming, using your Wi-Fi calling, whatever that is, you have it while everybody else is sitting in the dark. And not only that, but if you do have a summer home or an RV, you could build out your own infrastructure for those different situations with wiring and all that. And all you need to do is just pop the antenna off and you're taking your internet with you everywhere. You don't need to set that up over and over with a new internet provider or whatever it is. This is just your one that you take with you everywhere you go. So check out satellitephonestore.com and find out more information.
All right, there you go. Now, I have Starlink. I have a Starlink system for the very reasons he just talked about. We go out in the field. When we go out in the field, we bring a case with us that's Starlink. So you can buy it to mount on your house. You can buy it to take it with you. We have one that's portable that we got through the satellite store. Because if we have an issue out in the field and we need to upload files, like when we're filming, and we want to upload a file back to the control room to play on TV that night, we need to be able to do that. See, media companies used to use satellite trucks, right? Satellite trucks, very expensive, big equipment. Took a whole truck, a van, a big truck. For a reporter to report and then shoot that back through the satellite to the control room, who would pick it up and either replay it or go live. Well, we have a portable Starlink. We also have what's called a live view unit, which a lot of media people use. But we also have Starlink as well. So I'm not suggesting to you, again, something that we ourselves don't use and don't have. We do. But this is becoming very popular. I talked to Tina today about it. I said, hey, Tina, at Worldview Talk, what's the most popular item right now? She said, it's Starlink. She said, a lot of people are getting the Starlink. I said, well, then let's put it front and center. These are also very popular. Shield your head from the hidden EMFs, the beanies for everyday defense against constant electromagnetic exposure. So you want to give your brain a rest? You can get the blankets, you can get the beanies, okay? The off-the-grid reliable solar generators, the bivvies, which allow you to text using your phone but go through the satellite, the bulletproof backpacks. These are very important. Okay, all I did was go to worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com, boom, there it is. That's it. Now, if you want to call and ask questions, please use that 866 number so we get credit, because all of these companies, they track the sales and then they say, okay, this month, here are your sales and here's what we're going to send you. Folks, this is part of how we're able to bring in the $40,000 a month that we need to keep afloat. So please go there. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com, or use that number 1-866-738-3224. Will you do that?